Right, so now you've got some sounds in here and you've stacked a few things up and you've got some kind of sound design happening. What you might want to do is come in and kind of do some fades on some of your clips and level things out a little bit, turn some things down, turn some things up. So what we're going to do is just quickly look at these three sounds that we used before and see how we can level them a bit. So if you want to adjust the level of a clip, it's very easy. All you do is you come in with your mouse pointer, just a standard pointer, and you can just turn that clip up or down like that. Okay, so I might just want to come in here and kind of do that to make this a little bit kind of more subtle. I can also create a fade at the beginning of something. So if I come to the beginning of a clip, I have this little backwards and forwards arrow. If I click, left click and hold, I can create a fade. So that is useful. So you need to essentially play around with that and get things kind of working how you want them to. Also, it's worth mentioning that you have also got all the kind of standard edit features that you'd have in Premiere. So you've got a razor blade tool here, so you can grab that, come in, make cuts if you want to, and then move, those things around how you want them. So it's very familiar sort of territory if you're used to working in Premiere. What I want to go through now is how you might kind of use the mixer function within Davinci Resolve to kind of place things around from left to right in your sound mix. So if you come along to this Fairlight control here, what it shows you is just our sound. It doesn't show you the video anymore. And what you've essentially got alongside that just here is a mixer control for each one of the tracks that you've got. So we've got 1, 2, 3 tracks here, and therefore we've got 1, 2, 3 faders. Plus we've got a fader for our master level, so the overall volume going out of the software. So what we can do here is we can kind of play around with where the sort of the sound is in the speakers. So for example, I can come up here and I can move the sound from left to right. So if you want your sound to appear to come from the right hand side, so the right speaker, then place it over here. Or if you don't want it to come totally on the right, but you want it to come somewhere towards the right, you could place it somewhere between the middle and the right, and then obviously you can do the same with the left. So that's very useful. Also, you've got an effects thing here. So if you click into here, just where this plus button is, we can put certain effects on. And one thing you might want to play around with is reverb. So by putting a reverb in here, you can have a play around with the sound. If I just solo this track, I'm just going to solo this. I'll do this one here, this button. So I'm just going to press the solo there. I'm just going to zoom in on it so we can see what's going on. There we go. So I've put a reverb on here now, and this reverb here has got lots of different controls that you can have a play around with. But essentially, there's two things which I think are going to be quite important for you to know really in terms of using it. So the first one is this one, output here. It's either dry or wet or somewhere in between. So dry means no reverb at all or no effect at all, and then progressively as you go through, you become the signal becomes in percentage terms more affected. So the more wet it gets, the more of the effect you've got. So you can decide how much you want of the effect there. Also the reverb time here. So as I change the reverb time and take it up, you notice this graph here gets longer. And the reverb time is essentially the length of time the reverb lasts. So the kind of the mimicking of a large open space, for example, like inside a church. If you clap your hands in a church, then it kind of, the reverb lasts a while, and depending on how big that building is, the reverb lasts longer or shorter. So you can mimic a small size building by having a short reverb, and a large building by having a longer reverb. Does that make sense? So if I just play that through, if I make it quite long, so you can hear that hopefully. And then if I want it to be shorter, which mimics a smaller room. And if I want lots of the effect, then I turn the output up. If I want a tiny bit of the effect, I turn it down. And then you can start to build a realistic room sound from using just those two controls. So the reverb time and the reverb output, dry or wet. Okay. So you can obviously come in here, you can change the level of different tracks if you want, although bear in mind that whatever's on those tracks, if you've got multiple sounds that are all built up on one track, that will alter the level of all of them. If you want to alter something individually, come in and use this control here for each clip. So once you've got a kind of sound edit, let's go back to my edit view. Once you've got a sound edit built up, all you need to do really at that point is start to export it. So when you export something, I'm just going to export this one little bit that we've got here that I've done sound on. So all you need to do is the same as you would in Premiere. You should press the I key for the in point. So if you're doing your whole video, then you'll put this at the beginning of your video and do your I key there. So press I, and then at the end you press O for out, and then that's my area that I'm going to export. So then we go to the Deliver tab here, and here's the area that we're going to export. So what I'm going to do is call this Vanilla Sky 001. I'm going to browse where to put it, so I'm going to put this on my desktop. Save that. So now it's cool. I've got the file name here, the place where I'm going to save it. And what I want to do here is make sure that we're exporting a single clip, not individual clips. So just make sure that this, where it says render single clip, it's checked there. Okay. So we're going to export the video, and just click on the audio tab to make sure the audio is checked as well. So you can choose at this point which bit you want to actually the resolution you want to export it at. So I'm going to do it at 1920 by 1080. You could do it at 720 or 1280 by 720 there, but keep it at 1920 by 1080 if you can. And then you can add it to the render queue here. So you click on Add to Render Queue. That then appears here, and you click on Start Render. And then once it's doing that, there'll be you'll notice that there's a progress bar here, and it's playing through here as well. Okay, so in the next video I'm going to show you how you can potentially download some sounds from freesound.org that you can bring into here for your assessment.